Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm, as always, your host, Rudy Robertson. And today, I didn't think about how I was going to do this intro, so, welcome, GingerBill, creator of things and the Odin language. I didn't think this one through very well, so we're just going to wing it. Introduce yourself further from that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yes, I'm GingerBill. Thank you very much, Brody, for inviting me onto this podcast of yours. It's very fun. But yeah, I'm GingerBill, the creator of Odin. I also work at Django Effects, which products such as EmberGen, LuGen, LiquidGen, and GeoGen, which are all real-time simulation software for the game and film industry is the best way of describing it. Mm-hmm. And I guess half the reason why you got me on this show is mainly for the controversy around about the Odin programming language and Wikipedia.
Well, that was a good excuse to talk to you. I'd been interested to bring you on for a bit.
Oh, that's wonderful, yeah.
So, I guess before we get into anything,
this should get me on, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good segue to do it, at least, if nothing else.
Mm.
So, I guess for anyone who might be completely unaware, it's probably a good place to start. What is Odin?
Odin, it is a C alternative for modern high-performance systems languages. So it's a programming language that does this. So how do I put this? Is anyone who's ever used C or C++ and you absolutely hate yourself when you're doing it? Odin might be for you. That might be the best way of describing it.
So when you say C alternative, what are we actually meaning by this?
Yeah, so C alternative is, in this particular case, means it is a C-like language, so it has a very similar approach to programming. It's an imperative procedural language, which means you just write procedures, or some people say functions, but I'm just being old-fashioned.
Sure.
And that's the case. But in general, like when it's a C-like, you've got manual memory management everywhere as well. So you allocate your things, you free stuff, you manually a lot. You have control over the memory layout, how things are accessed, how things... just in general, like you have complete control like you can see with C, but because it's an alternative like modern systems, it is more designed for modern computers. We're not pretending now that they're on a PDP-11, which is what C was originally developed for. And of course, it's evolved over the years, and people still use C to this day, and I still use C and C++, obviously. But Odin is trying to be like, look, I've had frustrations with C, and I started Odin, God, nearly 10 years ago now. God, time flies. But yes, that's kind of what an alternative means in this case.
So what are some of those frustrations? Why would somebody want to use a language like Odin, or, whether you want to talk about the other languages that are out there as well that are in a similar sort of vein as well? What are those issues and frustrations with C?
A lot of it's just a lot of the very little minor things. So C in general is a very productive language. It is surprisingly a smallish language. I'm saying smallish for a reason, because actual C, yeah, small, but C on the actual compilers is actually quite big, because you've got all the extensions, all the extra things on top of it. But it is a very productive language which does so much, and you can get by doing anything in it. Literally, you can program anything in it, from an operating system to a game to a graphical application to a web browser. Like literally anything you want you can do in those sort of languages, because it's low level enough that you've got control over memory, but it is a high level language, as in I'm not writing assembly.
Right.
Now,
yeah, I think a lot of people sort of make that mistake when they talk about C, they're like, oh, C is a low level language. Like, no. C abstracts away really far from that machine code.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you can write it, and yes, it is lower level than a language like Python, for example. So it kind of depends on your reference point. But everything that is not assembly is a high-level language, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. And a lot of people may not find that also a bit confusing. Like, how is C a high level? I have to deal with memory manually. And it's like, you'd be surprised how little you actually sometimes have to. If you actually design the APIs and libraries correctly, and all the nice ones, it can be very high level. That's the actual surprising thing I always found before I even started Odin. I was trying to figure out how to make my C experience even better. And my realization was that a lot of these high level scripting languages like Python, as you explained, they just come with batteries included. And everything is there already. And with C, nothing comes batteries included really, and the C standard library is dreadful, and you pretty much want to replace it straight away. But again, that's one of the gripes, right? Is the C standard library is dreadful. But again, that's just a library thing. What about the actual language itself? But a great example of this is that let's take some minor things. Like C doesn't actually have a proper array type in it. And what I mean by that is all array types get demoted to a pointer, which means you're doing pointer arithmetic all the time. You've got arrays with no bounds checking, which means you've now got out of bounds errors. Anything that's like this called spatial memory safety is gone out the window. There's this overload now. A pointer could be also an array. So there's this separation, merging of concepts. The type system has got many different like implicit conversions all the time because C is a very weakly typed language. So there's loads of implicit conversions going on, which can and will bite you in the arse. So it is, but it's just loads of little things as you go through with the language that they just start to annoy you. And anyone who has long-term experience with C, but also had experience with the languages, will know those problems. And with Odin, the whole point was, can I try and solve that problem, and go literally systematically throughout it, and like, how do I redesign to get around these problems whilst still feeling like C, not being radically different, like say for something like Rust. Rust is trying to solve other sets of problems, like for instance temporal memory safety as well as spatial, and do it through other means. But it doesn't feel like C when you program in Rust, because Rust isn't trying to be that. Which is fine. That is absolutely fine. It's just not trying to do that.
So, a lot of one thing that often come up when we talk about anything involving C, and I'm sure a lot of these people don't actually write a line of code in their entire life. They've never written C in their entire life, but they'll say things like, "Oh, well, these aren't problems with C. That's just a skill issue on your part."
Yes and no. So there are skill issues, obviously, when it comes to anything within programming in general. But there are things where it's like, the language hasn't got enough protections in it, which you will catch your mistakes. And by the way, you'll make mistakes no matter how skilled you are, because mistakes can come from anywhere. They can even come from dodgy APIs, dodgy libraries, even your past self who might have been, I don't know, intoxicated at one time and you've just done something wrong. But I think this is half the problem, is that I'm also not saying that you need a full-on safety net when you're doing with C, because a lot of time you actually want that control and that unsafety. That is kind of how it's the thing you're doing is that unsafetyness. That's correct English, obviously.
Yeah.
But
close enough.
Unsafetyness. I'm making up new words now.
They'll work it out.
Sorry for people who English is not your first language, but this is kind of thing. So there are some issues with skill issues, because if you're not used to doing that sort of programming, you'll expect more high-level constructs. Like why can't I just allocate an array on the fly and do all this magical manipulations with all these hash maps and stuff? And it's like, yes, he hasn't got any of that. And that can be a frustration, and I completely understand it. But at the same time, it's not. When you deal with C, and I recommend anybody, if you are a programmer, to learn C, even if you don't use it as a day job or anything like that, just to learn that style of programming. Again, there's loads of different languages to learn, but C is a great way of learning that sort of style of programming. You're going to start thinking differently. It's the best way of describing it. Just thinking about how you solve a problem differently. Also thinking about, actually, how do these operating systems work? Because they're all written in C or C++ for the most part. So it's kind of very useful to understand that. And also it kind of forces you to understand how data structures work as well, directly.
Yeah, I think there's this desire in programming, especially now with AI tooling being a thing, to produce a thing really quickly, to produce a website, to produce an application, and sort of jump over those initial steps of that foundational computer science, where you really start to understand just how do things fit together. Even just basic things, like if I'm going to use a hash map, what is a hash map? Not just, I can put a key in here, there's a value. How does that actually work?
Yeah, and it's something which is going to be a problem with AI in general, is that the people who already know these skills and and the ones that also use AI, they're going to be fine because they already know the foundational stuff. But if you're a new programmer and you're skipping straight to the AI stuff in general, oh goodness, you're not going to know how to architect anything. You're not going to understand how things work. And when things go wrong, you're just going to be asking the LLM, like, can you fix this, please? Make no mistakes.
Right.
It doesn't really work. And again, I've still even used, I try using LLMs from time to time. Look, I'll always try out something new, see how it works, once a philosopher and all. But sometimes it's like, I know it makes mistakes. I know exactly where it's gone wrong, but I know why I have to do this. They're never going to be perfect, but they're going to be better than nothing sometimes for some people. Some people also like, they're not interested in whatsoever. But again, if you don't have those foundations, how they work, you're never going to actually become a very good programmer. And there's always going to be a complete, literally cap on your skill. And I recommend people learning, again, as many different ways of thinking with different languages, but one of them is especially C.
I think there's also a value in sort of taking on interesting basic forms of complex projects. So one idea I often hear is like a way to learn a language is writing a basic HTTP server, right? It's not something you're ever going to use in production, most likely. You're never going to deploy it, but it gives you an understanding of how do these messages get transferred around? Like, what is that actually doing? And even though you're not going to use it, you have a better understanding of how that fits together. When you know how that fits together, that can give you a better understanding of how other similar sorts of things might fit together as well.
Yeah. Again, HTTP 1.1 server is a great example of this because you'll learn how to use sockets, for example, learn about what TCP is. You'll learn about how to richly read the header, how to do the basic text parsing within that header as well. There's a lot of skills you actually have to do there. And that's just reading as a client. And then learning how to do that as a server is even going to be more fun. And there's a lot of fundamentals which, once you understand those fundamentals, it's not magical anymore. And you can also just piece things together better. And you go, oh, this is how this works. Oh, I could do this. I know how to, this now works here. And you learn more transferable skills as well. Because that's also another thing is if you're asking LLM to do things, you may not even know how to ask it the right question.
Right.
And that's an actual real skill as well. It's even, regardless of not even an LLM, if you don't know how to ask the right question for the problem you've got, because you don't know enough of your skill set, well, you're screwed.
Well, it kind of puts you into the position. Have you seen that? I have that picture of like, this is what the client described. This is what the engineer thought they made, or thought they wanted. This is what the DevOps person thought they wanted. And then at the end, it's like, this is what the client actually wanted. When you're communicating with an LLM, you're effectively in that position of the client trying to explain what you actually want to build, trying to interpret, and there's a skill to that as well, right? I think there is value in being able to break down and explain a problem, but I think that is a different skill from generally being able to engineer a solution.
Well, yeah, because again, engineering is a skill in itself, and even asking those right questions. For instance, if you got a client that's saying, "I want you to make this piece of software, please," and you just keep asking those questions. So, what do you mean by this? Because most people aren't very good at communicating what's in their minds.
Yeah.
Telling you in that, because they've got general like, "Oh, I know what it means. Just say this," and like, "Yeah, but what do you mean by that word?" And just keep breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down. And then sometimes you're like, "Okay, I've got this prototype," and you show them, and they go, "That's not what I wanted." It's like, okay, so what did you want? And you explain, they go, oh, you mean this. So it's this repetitive, repeating process that you've got. And you've got to do back and forth with what the purpose of what the person wanted, even if that person's you, by the way, because sometimes you have to do this back and forth conversation with yourself. Or if it's just literally like, okay, understanding what does this person think? How do I engineer this? Is it even possible? How much time is it going to take? You've got all this, and it's a proper problem-solving task. For most programming stuff, it's not really engineering for most people. But for some people, it really is a proper engineering job when you're actually dealing with like systems level programming and going, oh, okay, now I've got to think about how to optimize this, deal with this, how does it interact with this system, do this. It's, oh my goodness. And you've got to worry about how this all, again, it's going to be architected and engineered together. And this is before even the skill of LLMs. And even with LLMs aren't going to help you with that because they can't really help with you yet, at least now yet, at least in the current iteration, this year of 2026.
Yeah, who knows? Look, who knows where we'll be in like 3 years, 5 years from now? You could make any sort of prediction, You're going to be wrong.
I'm not going to try to. I'm just saying at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the safest bet to make. So
I doubt it because there's other things, but let's just not get into that discussion. That's probably a little bit too philosophical at that point.
Sure, like what does it mean to think like a human? Like, what is there something special about human thought, creativity?
Well, it's not even that. It's just it's not even that I was going to get into, but sure. Just more of a lot of people are going to be autistic, and a lot of programs are autistic, and they're going to be just talking with another autistic machine. So it's going to be like you've got a communication barrier.
That's you know what? Fair point, actually. So jumping back a bit to when we're talking about issues with C, we kind of got sidetracked. I'm sure it's going to happen a bunch of times.
Must be fine.
How does Odin go about trying to resolve some of these issues with C? I assume it has a more complete standard library, but what exactly does the language do?
It's loads of little things all put together. This is the thing. This is actually one of the big issues I've had been marketing Odin is that in general, there is no one killer feature. It's just literally an improvement by 1,000 little things. And it's gone step by step how to improve those for what someone, and also try and still feel like C. Weirdly enough, what I when I started Odin is I didn't have a start with like something exactly like C and then try and improve that. I kind of started from Pascal.
Okay.
Okay. Which sounds confusing to people. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, things, but you don't see begin and end anywhere nowadays. It's just curly braces. So, but when many people see Odin, they may go, "Well, it looks very similar to Go," and they go, "Oh, yeah, it looks a bit like Go." Well, part of that reason is Go is actually a Pascal as well, in disguise. And it's not a surprise because one of the main designers is Robert Griesmer. Robert Griesmer's PhD supervisor was Niklas Wirt, the creator of Pascal. So you can see the lineage of all those ideas there. You got Rob Pike has also been dealing with those sort of people. You got Ken Thompson. So it's kind of like, look, they've got kind of a Pascal style foundation, plus trying to make it still feel seal-like. And that's kind of what I've done with Odin. But with an Odin, we've gone even further and gone like, okay, well, this is the stuff we do in C. Can we try and map this in a better way and deal with those specific problems? And a lot of also the design that I've come about is also trying to think like, okay, what are the problems that people actually have? Can we then try and solve those specific problems? Rather than trying to think of a generalized one, like, okay, here's one kind of feature in a language which could solve multiple of them. Not very great, but multiple. Like, but Odin's more like, right, is that a common problem? Right, give that a good solution. That common problem? Yep, give that a good solution. And then see if there is an overlap. And then, but if not, just keep them separate. So Odin's design is very, in that sense, conservative. It is not trying to come up with new ideas. It's trying to say, look, we've got known problems with known solutions, know things how actually work, and then try and make all of that coherent, cohesive, and consistent within the language itself. So again, nothing in Odin is that flashy in the slightest. And I think the newest ideas in there probably come from like 20 years ago.
I know you put out a blog post like 2 years ago on marketing the Odin language, and yes. I can see what you mean there, right? Like there are these languages. First one that comes to mind is something like V, for example, where there's this specific thing it is marketed for, and the problem with marketing a feature is that for the people that want to be critical of a language, that is kind of the stick to beat it with, right? And this comes up a lot with Rust when people talk, you know, even though memory safety is not like, for anyone who's, memory safety is not a unique thing to Rust at all, not even remotely. But because it is something that often gets talked about around Rust, it's something directly mentioned on like the Rust website. When anything is not the definition the person looking at the project has for that feature, that's immediately a point to criticize it on.
Oh yeah. And again, taking Rust as an example, Rust's, I won't say it's unique. I always say the word novel, right? Its approach to memory safety.
Oh, sure, its approach is novel. Yeah, absolutely.
Its approach it's a compile time approach to memory safety rather than most languages use like garbage collection and such. This is now doing it compile time, so it has both spatial, which is like out of bounds and stuff, temporal, which is then clearly over time, different types of memory safety, and then it can prove that at compile time. That's kind of the aspect of Rust. And not just that, it's also a compiled language. So people like Rust for that particular purpose. And if you need that kind of thing, then Rust is probably a very good language. I'm not saying it's great because I have many other gripes about Rust, but that general idea, good. But now my thing I'm going to annoy a lot of Rust programmers with is most people don't need that level of memory safety at all for most of their programs. So if you don't actually need it, maybe you need maybe some other language is a better option for you. It could be Odin, could be any other language. I don't particularly care. Whatever your problem is, that's the language you should try and find the language that's right for your problem set.
Yeah, that right there is a really important point. People get really defensive about languages and they want to turn it into like this team match thing. And I kind of get it when you're talking about languages which serve a very similar function. But at the end of the day, right, like at the end of the day, they're all Turing complete languages. You're going to work out the problem in them anyway. Yes, some of them might be better at certain different things, but at that point, just test them. Like, do a small case, see what it's like. It may not even necessarily be the performance of the language. See which one you just feel more comfortable writing. Like, what feels better to you?
Yeah, I always recommend that to people. I always say, like, oh, why should I use Odin? I'm like, well, give it a go for a little while, see if it meets your needs. If not, try some other languages out, because you may actually find out that, oh, I've tried Odin, didn't like it, but then I tried the others and went, actually, I didn't like them even more. So, or it might be the other way around, or it might be literally, you loved Odin and it's great. But I think for a lot of people is, when I say try something smaller, I mean, you've got to probably properly try a language, try and make a little project in it for over a week. Don't just try it for a couple hours, because sometimes it just takes a while to get into that groove of figuring out, like, oh, do I like this or do I not? But if there are languages out there that are in your niche, whatever it's like, if you're looking at, again, say my age now, but Python, Ruby, like, okay, I don't like, it was fine. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, they're always back in the day, like 20 years ago. I'm not that old actually, by the way, but it's just, I remember when I first started programming this, I remember seeing all the stuff. And they were like similar niches because you can make website backends with them, and they're both scripting languages and very object oriented. And it's like, well, just choose one and see if you like it, and try the other one and see if you like it. And then there you go, problem solved. It's not a religion, for goodness sake. But many people treat it like one, and please don't.
I think it's because of like how much investment it takes to like learn, especially learning your first language, right? Like once you've learned one, learning additional ones after that is, unless it's some like weird, I'm talking about Haskell programmers. Unless it's something like Haskell, something fundamentally different from a model you already know. For the most part, it's a pretty easy thing to jump between language and language. Syntax might be weird. Yeah, it might be weird. Sure, absolutely. But the fundamental programming concept, this goes back to what we were saying before. This is why it's important to understand how things work, because when you understand those lower level concepts, you can apply those ideas to any other language with relative ease.
Yeah. But again, it's as you're saying, like, if you know one imperative language, like an imperative procedural language, you can kind of understand the way of thinking in that other language. Not fully, because to master any language, like, okay, how do I put this? Dutch and German may be very similar languages, but they're not actually the same language. So it's very much like you have to kind of like, okay, how does it work in this language? Right. But again, as you're saying, something like Haskell, it's a very good example of language which you have to think differently with it. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one myself, but maybe something like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, OCaml might be a good example for someone to try something of that realm, like an ML language, in that a way you can just think of a different way of thinking. And you may learn, again, different ways of thinking that you can actually apply to other languages, and you may even prefer that stuff. Again, I recommend people trying different styles, different languages. Like, again, try C, try something like OCaml, try something like, again, an SQL language, try something like, I know, an APL of some sort. Yeah, there's so many different things away, but again, once you do different ways, you actually start thinking differently about how to problem solve fundamentally. Yeah. But yeah, as you say, if it's within the same area, you can, I'm not saying you can easily go between the different languages, but you get the general gist, and you can probably learn it quicker.
Yeah, you're not going to like especially, you know, we talked about Rust a few times. The Rust memory model is going to throw you. There is going to be basic data structures which do not work like you would expect them to because of the Rust memory model. That is just the way the language works. Yeah. But outside of that,
but outside of that, but even then, it's the thing about Rust is it's technically an ML in disguise anyway. But it is. It's just meant to look like a C++ language, but it's ML semantics quite everywhere, which for better or for worse. Again, your preference.
Sure.
There's no like perfect language out there, guys.
So, when Odin when did Odin get started? Firstly,
July of 2016.
Okay.
It started as just a hobby project. It wasn't really serious. But yeah, nearly 10 years ago now as the time of recording.
Okay. Well, why did it get started? What initial problem was it trying to resolve? Or were you just bored and wanted to make a language?
Right. I'll kind of start from the beginning. So before even starting language, in 2015, I kind of gave myself a New Year's resolution for 2026 to see what I actually wanted from a language, because I was just, again, I did loads of projects, hobby projects, I was working in C++. I think I had a job at the time, was doing also C++ stuff. And I just kind of got really frustrated with it. So one of the New Year's resolutions I had was just start with C and just use C for my new projects, like hobbyist stuff, and see what I wanted. And very quickly, I realized I didn't need much. Like, I didn't actually need many features. I could get on with quite a lot. But then I eventually started like, okay, so C is still a bit restricting. So I kind of made like, I need to make my own core library, like my own standard library for it, which released the gb.h header files, which I released in the public domain. I know many people have now taken that code in their own libraries because it was public domain. So I've seen my code in random code base and go, I wrote that. But that was one thing. And then eventually I said, look, C is not enough. So I eventually kind of made my own C compiler to add some extra features to it. So I added slices, which are like array, a pointer plus a length of an array. So I've got bounds checking. I added a first statement to the language. And then eventually I started realizing like, I can't improve C. Like C has got, the foundations are so broken, like so broken. I'm going to have to start my own language. So I got drunk one night after the pub and came home and started streaming on Twitch. And started making a language. And yeah, the arrogance of when you get drunk. Now, Odin's not my first language, but and it's not even my last either. I've done many other languages after this now, even small ones or teaching ones and stuff like that. But yeah, it was yeah, that's kind of how it started. But then it just, I kept, after about a couple of months, I went, actually, this might be a decent language. And I think within about 5 months, I had like most of Odin fleshed out. It's just taken this an extra 10 years to get the polish. And Odin is effectively done now. It's just we haven't officially released 1.0. We're just still polishing things out, making sure things are there. And then eventually we'll announce it, which won't be far off, I don't think, actually. But yeah.
Well, I guess what would 1.0 be? Like, what is... I've played around a little bit with it, but like, what...
Yeah.
What do you want things to be at? What kind of polish do you want to be there? What is missing? Or is it just like little bugs?
With the
here
language
and there?
itself, the language itself is effectively done. There's a couple, probably one or two, I say features, they're not even features. It's one or two things that I need to just add just to round it all off 1.0. I would have loved to have inline assembly as well as a feature in there, but I don't think it's necessary for 1.0. Could be for 1.1, that's fine. So the language itself effectively is already 1.0. However, for many people when they conceptualize a language, it's not just the language. They're thinking about the core library. They're thinking about the compiler. They're thinking about the entire ecosystem. And there's a few packages that we want to have to be fully packages included. So one of the things we haven't got yet, but we will so hopefully soon, is a full-on HTTP package to make HTTP servers and clients and such like that. Also with native cryptography as well, because we've got someone who is a world expert kind of implementing all that now, and it will just be native in Odin. If not, we could always use a non-native one if you want. You can just use whatever, but it'll be in Odin. We would also probably want some other libraries here and there, maybe a UI library as well. But in general, it's just we want this batteries included thing because we want this ability that you can just download the language and you can just go make things. Which sounds like, oh, that's I can do that in any language. I'm like, yes and no. A lot of the time you just have to now download third-party things. You have to go through a package manager, which I've written an article on that where I think package managers are evil. I won't cover that topic again, but they are one of those things which I do think they lead to more problems than they're ever actually worth. Again, I don't dislike packages, as you probably can tell. Just package managers are a very specific thing. And if people read that, just read that article if you'd like. But yeah, it's just that. So 1.0 for me is like language. Yeah, we're pretty much there. Core library, we're not far off. The compiler, we're not far off either. It's literally that spit polish. We need to get there. That's all it is.
Okay. I actually am kind of curious about the package managers thing. I am kind of curious about that.
Well, to explain it, so I was on the Primagen stream. This is going back now, 2 years nearly? 18 months, 2 years. And I was with the creator of Elixir, Jose. Okay. And we were just kind of talking about this. And then I got to one topic and I was kind of, the Primagen was like, oh, I've heard about your views on package managers. So I went, okay, I'll just start. And I went, right, package managers for programming languages are evil. And I just kind of went to this display. And I kind of clarified what I was doing. I was trying to explain what package managers are as well. And literally the short answer for all of it is that a package manager automates dependency hell. And the problem is not everything needs to be automated, especially hell. Okay. And that's my general criticism. Unnecessary automation. Now, I know many people say, but I need it for this X, Y, and Z. How do you do things without a package manager? And my general answer is that you just do things manually. Because if you do things manually, it doesn't prevent you from going to hell. It just slows you down and you actually start to see what you're depending on and literally seeing how things work. Because when you just mindlessly download thing and it does 1,000 different dependencies and another 1,000 on top of that.
NPM.
Do you actually know how any of that code works? There's no vetting. There's no vendoring going on. It's all just madness. And you can get to situations like the left pad situation is a great example of this.
I was just about to bring that up. Yes.
Yeah, like people depend on something like that and now it's not there. So then eventually, literally JavaScript, the ECMAScript, I should say, had to actually add that as part of the language. But then you get these security violations. So like when I did the Primagen thing, bit later, I wrote up the article, literally pretty much word for word what was said in there, and then just wrote it up. And 2 hours after I published the thing, there was a massive NPM security thing because people depending on this compromised thing and people automatically update their things and just everywhere's gone wrong because you automated hell. And you've made security leaks. And people go, yeah, but we shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, but people do this anyway. So you have all this. Again, this is this high idea of ideas, how to think it through. It's the same thing when I'm doing language design, though, man. It is literally just thinking, how do people actually use things and how do they think about it? Okay, so deal with that. That's human nature. You're not going to change human nature. You've just got to figure out how to navigate it. And again, package managers, programming languages, all of these kind of things are no different.
So basically, you think the idea of package managers sort of facilitates the creation of this ecosystem where things depend on things that depend on things that depend on things, effectively. Yep. And this, like the worst, it's not as bad with something like a Python, for example, but NPM is the worst case example where you will download what you think is one package and then it has 100 dependencies. Now, I think there is a place for package managers as like a third-party thing. For example, I do think there is value in having them on like, a Linux desktop, right? Where people are not building... Obviously, they're building under the assumption that package managers exist, but I don't think that necessarily creates as bad of an issue. And maybe you disagree with me here.
So
do you think there would still be value in having...
I was trying to focus it on programming languages specifically.
Sure,
managers.
Okay.
When you get package managers for an operating system, like your favorite Linux distro, I think you use Arch, don't you? By the way, Brody, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah. So, and so there's different package managers out there, obviously. So there's different ones to choose from, and they are useful. But there's also this aspect where, like, I've used like a Windows machine and a Mac for years. I can remember, like, I've been using a computer since I was like 3 years old, and I never used a package manager until I got to Linux.
Well, on Windows, and you do have them.
They're built
into
on
the
Windows, but I was on Windows. I was on Mac, But when I needed software, I just downloaded it or installed it and it just worked. And when you get to Linux, it's a bit complicated. So people say, yeah, that's great, but Linux is a different thing. It's like, yeah, you're right. It's just different. It's open. It's very much, people like to literally download things that way, and just they treat this package manager as effectively their search engine and download things. But it's also one of those things where the package manager allows you to update things. It's a bit more automated compared to, say, the Mac or the Windows thing, which may have to be very manual, unless it's like an Apple, it's a Mac, Apple specific thing. You'll have its own package manager built into the operating system. It is the update of the software. And then eventually have the Mac store as well afterwards. I'm just talking before that because they are software updates.
Okay,
But this is where it's like, okay, that's what package managers do. But also, each one of those things that you installed, they were just one thing. They didn't have anything else dependent on them. The operating system was its only dependency. So you have this question of, what are you actually trying to automate? And is that a good thing or not? And I'm not saying there is a yes or no to that answer. It's just, I think a lot of people, how do I put this? A lot of people don't even think of it that far. They actually are very blindly trusting of strangers when they really shouldn't be.
Okay, no, that's definitely fair.
Yeah.
No, I see where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
Kind of talked over each other for a bit there. One thing I will say is, obviously, each individual application on Windows is effectively its own package manager. Like when the wizards obviously are installing dependencies in the background, but the difference you're saying there is there's not an overall system that is managing all of those individual applications. It is if you want to install, I don't know, Crystal Disk Mark, I don't know, first thing came to mind. You've got to specifically download that. I guess nowadays, obviously, things like Chocolatey do exist. So it's bringing some of that because whilst you might have issues with them, people do find them convenient and people do kind of want them to an extent. And this is why you have application stores as well.
Yeah, I think application stores are a slightly different thing normally as well. And because they are only dealing with applications in that regard, right? Usually, if it's like the App Store, they're usually semi-vetted. I'm being very careful here because they're not fully. But they're usually a little bit more. It's a repo where you can search and download things, and it has an update manager too, which is kind of what a package manager is. Now, I know a lot of people say they love it and it's very useful for them, but I also go to you, I'm like, again, it's this question: is it automating a thing that's necessary? And my answer to that is probably not. As surprising that sounds to people, especially since how difficult it is to go manually down something. Even if it's like, if you're on Linux, like just doing wget. I know that's like, it's the same thing. I'm not saying you have to go on a web browser and download it.
Sure.
But it's this way you get into different situations. It's a very subtle discussion. This is the problem. There's little things here and there, and there's a lot of nuance to it, unfortunately. And this is the problem when you talk with, like, see people randomly on the internet. They strip out all nuance, and it's like, oh, for goodness sake, thank you. Especially with YouTube comments and all. They're my favorite, obviously.
Oh yeah, I love them. No, nothing ever goes wrong in the YouTube comments.
Nothing ever. I've always had the most productive comments I've ever had in the YouTube comments. I'm being facetious for people who don't know.
I there was a. Oh my god! Can I find it? There was a. This is not YouTube comments. This is on Twitter. I was talking about the Steam controller yesterday. Unless they deleted the comment. Did they? Did they realize they were stupid? Oh, yeah. So I made a comment about like gyro controls. I was like, I don't personally use gyro controls. Someone replied to that with, what causes Linux users to smugly demonize disabled people for needing something they have absolutely zero experience, knowledge, or context about? I just said I don't use gyro controls. I didn't say you shouldn't use them. I didn't say they're bad. I just said I didn't use them.
That's the pancake waffle thing, right? That's, if you know the meme about pancake waffles, right? But, which is literally like, well, I like pancakes. And they go, what do you mean? You don't like waffles? And I went, that's just a complete different sentence. But it's like the same with like you saying you don't use, like I use the Steam controller. I absolutely love the original Steam controller. And I love the gyro on that. One of the reasons why is that if you're doing like something, literally a game that was developed for a mouse originally, I can use that and actually literally have it as accurate as a mouse, if not better in many cases, especially like an FPS or a third person shooter and such. And it's wonderful, those sort of things. It is literally, I can get the general gist and then use the gyro to properly get the high precision that I need.
Mm-hmm.
And no other controller I've found is ever able to do that as accurately. And I know with the new Steam controller, there are actually even like capacitive hand grips, which allow you to do the gyro control as well, not just touching the sticks. They can also do it on the grip. So it's like they really are going like this. And I've seen people say they just don't understand the point of the gyro. Why didn't they just get rid of it? Which is different to what you're saying. You just don't use it.
Yeah.
So it's just all these levels people extrapolate because they say, oh, you don't like gyro? Well, you're a bad person. Because I like it, or you don't think about these. It's like, it is literally, it's the internet for you, right?
Yeah.
People just lack, they just skip to the conclusion that they thought what you've said, and it's not what you've said.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's fun, right?
Yeah. You know, I've been on the internet for a long time now, probably longer than I should have been. I was probably on the internet earlier than I should have been, like most people. The internet's like this.
I've grown up on the internet, literally, so that's not great. Yeah, thank you, Dad. Because my dad was on the internet before the World Wide Web as well, so he's interested me with the actual internet very early on. Thanks, Dad.
Thankfully, early on, my I didn't get on the internet till like I was. Well, I'm a bit younger than you are, so I got on maybe like.
Yeah, I'm 31 now, so.
Yeah, okay, you're a few years older than me then. Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
I'm 28 now.
Yeah, it's fine,
But I lived in a rural area initially, and rural Australia just didn't have good internet. My parents also came from a farming background. They didn't care about computers or the internet, so I didn't have a home computer till I was like 8 or so. And by then, YouTube was coming out, but everybody else, like, Australia used to have garbage internet. Nowadays, you can get fiber. But back then, whilst the US was already starting to talk about like 25 down, 30 down, maybe 50, we were still on like maybe 1. So that's sort of limited. As content was being made for higher and higher internet speeds, it kind of limited what you could do.
Oh, yeah. I can remember I was still on dial-up until... When did we get off dial-up? It was about, say, 20 years ago, right? So I'd have been 11. We were still on dial-up. So I remember that being very slow. And then eventually we got broadband. And wow, it was amazing. We were getting like 3 megabits per second down, which was a lot better than dial-up. So it was really fast. I was able to watch the YouTube when it was just coming out in like 2006. And watching the amazing things at like 240p, maybe less. Beautiful. But yeah, I think people now take for granted how fast internet has got, and realizing actually when it was slower. Actually, this is the funny thing as well. Like, bit of a tangent because like this is how my brain works. Sorry,
that's fine. Let's go. Let's follow it.
But like, websites loaded a hell of a lot faster back then than they did now in many ways. And I'm not just like going back to things. Like because the internet speeds were slow, we had to optimize a hell of a lot more for the websites. People don't do that anymore.
You just couldn't load 100 megabytes of
for a
JavaScript.
website. Yeah, it's like, no, it's not like it was 50 kilobytes. No, it's like 50 megabytes, 100 megabytes now. And it's like, yeah, people have got the internet speeds fast enough, right? No, not everyone does. And then they take forever to load even when they're downloaded. And then they're also downloading multiple different places because they're thinking like, oh yeah, I have 1,000 connections to download these different places from different places. That's fine. It's like, you don't know what latency is then. Thank you.
I think there's... this kind of ties back into the vacuum manager thing, right? Where now it's so easy to just install. If you had to install React package by package, I think people would reconsider using it for everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think this is half the problem again when you automate something like that. You don't actually start thinking about the consequences of each of it. And this is the problem, is not everything needs to be automated. And I know that's a controversial opinion for many people. It's like, well, if I can automate it, why shouldn't I automate it? And I'm thinking... Yeah, but you don't know what you're doing. Like, you actually don't know the consequences of what you're doing when you do that. And again, I'm not like React. Me is kind of the idea of React is kind of genius, but then everything else that comes from that, there's other things that's like all the dependencies and such. It's just, oh yeah, that's fun.
Well, I think it goes back to what we were saying before, right? About understanding those low-level concepts. I think if, like, I'm coming around to this idea, right? I think there might be some value in understanding how your dependencies fit together and then automating it later, right? having that base understanding of this is how things actually work. This is why why do I need this package? What is this package doing? Can I get rid of it?
Yeah.
And then once you have that understanding of what the packages are doing, if you want to automate it, then, hey, totally fine. Like a good example.
Yeah.
As I told you, I use Arch Linux. I think you should manually install Arch. However, if I'm spinning up a VM, I'm not manually installing Arch. I'm going to run Arch install. I'm going to set it up in 5 minutes, and that's going to be all I need.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I'm installing an operating system, I just want it to be dumb as well. That's my actual thing. Like, I have done Arch from scratch before. Never again. I don't like that experience. Like, I'm kind of the thing where I just want this computer to work, work. And last time I did the Arch thing, it took me a week just to even get the audio drivers to work correctly. Because every time I restarted the machine, it didn't work again. And I was like, what's going on here? And I was like, oh, for goodness. I'd literally tried all different ones, like, pulse audio. Then you had to go to all the pipe wire and all this crap. And it's just, it was wonderful. And people saying, just not doing it correct. Have you not read this little thing? And I'm like, great, but I think there's an incompatibility with the driver with my hardware, which was, it's like Linux still struggles with audio. It's amazing, right? But that's also the general other ideas that some places you do want to automate it. Like, again, the lovely experience of just installing software, like your operating system, it shouldn't be difficult. In fact, another thing is, why does it take ages to install an operating system? Shouldn't it just be able to copy and paste it onto the drive and it mostly be done? Why is there so many other extra setup stages? It's just, that's another, and it takes literally sometimes half an hour or more to do it.
I had to do a Windows install Actually, great comparison. I did a Windows 11 install recently in a VM, tested that out to...
So sorry.
I don't remember what I was doing. But for a separate thing, I also set up Windows XP because I wanted access to Windows Movie Maker just to get a Windows Movie Maker intro. I forgot how good it used to be. I forgot how easy it was. You just click next and it's done.
Yep. And I think this is the point. People go like, you're just being nostalgic. I'm like, we're not being nostalgic. You just go do the thing. Try the old software and realize, oh God, that installed quickly. Oh, that runs fast. And they go, yeah, but it ran slow on the old hardware. I'm like, no, it didn't. It ran pretty good on the old hardware as well, surprisingly. But there's just so much easy user experience. And now the user experience has just been getting worse and worse. And I know why. It's just simply because people get...
We've optimized developer time over performance.
I don't even think it's that. Seriously. Because if it's optimizing for developer time, how do I phrase this? I kind of think the idea of developer experience is a bit of a psyop in the sense that, sorry, that's kind of a bit of a joke, but it's kind of like, it's not really, they're not actually optimizing for developer experience. They're thinking that what they're doing is like, well, I'm being more productive doing all this more stuff. And if I optimize doing more crap, that means I'm doing more stuff, even though it's like, you're actually just making more work for yourself. So I don't think they've actually optimized for developer experience in the slightest, actually. Especially since, and now this is not a real bet, by the way, but the bet idea is if you said, oh, you develop this application to its completion and been polished, and you do your approach with your fancy things, and I do my way, the slower manual way, I bet I would probably do it in just the same amount of time, not the short initial prototype, but the finished, polished thing, and mine would just run orders of magnitude faster. It would have more functionality probably as well, and just be better. I'm like, but why? I'm not saying I'm a much better programmer, but I'm just saying I don't think they actually optimize for developer time at all. And I think there's this myth where they think they're doing it, but they've never actually tested it.
Right, yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. You see what I mean, though? Be like, people think they're optimizing for this, but are they? Do they know? Do they have seen the alternative? I doubt it.
Right, it's this... Well, it's general goal of optimizing for developer time, but if you don't have that reference point on what it would have been without the optimization, did you actually improve anything?
Correct. It's literally always that question is, compared to what? Like, I've optimized time. Yeah, compared to what other approach? What do you mean other approach? Like, compared to what? And what hard evidence have you got for that claim? It's like this... But again, people don't ever get taught to think that way in terms of because they don't really get taught basic engineering. It is this level of well, I could do it this way, or I could do it that way. And it's like, well, what are the trade-offs for this and this? It's like the joke of like when people say I use the right language, the right tool for the job, like if they use language, and they all think, yes, I'll just use JavaScript for everything. Thank you. Because that's the only tool they know. Not the best, just the only one, which also means it's the worst. Because if you only have one data point, that's all it says.
Right. If the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, if you only know JavaScript,
Don't try and paint your walls with a hammer.
JavaScript.
It's not a good job.
If you only know JavaScript,
Yeah, I'm
everything's
not even trying to
JavaScript.
criticize
That's how you get the Windows
yeah,
Start menu written in React.
I'm on Windows 11 right now. I hate Windows 11, but I'm doing it just for dog fooding, for work stuff.
Yeah.
Oh god, the start menu, everything else. I've literally seen accidentally it's popped up sometimes, and people say no, it's native. It's React Native is what they use, and I'm like, great. Why have I seen a console window then before? That's just a web browser. Like, you know, like the inspector panel I meant. That thing. I'm like, no, that's a web browser. That's not React Native. I love software, okay? I love Windows. Not. Windows is awful. I've been thinking about downgrading to Windows 10 for this machine, but yeah, I literally have.
Well, this is one of the things I do like about Linux is that if you want to avoid a lot of that stuff, you know, you kind of can. Like, if you... obviously, if you're going to use other people's applications, you kind of will have to deal with stuff eventually. But you know, at least at the operating system level, you can get rid of a lot of that cruft. If you want to live like it's 1995, you can. You just
The only problem I have many issues with Linux, but I just don't have brand new. It's not most operating systems, by the way. I'm not like completely biased. I am just like I have issues with all of them. But like I'm developing software, I'm doing it because most people use Windows, so I'm developing for Windows applications. But I also don't really like doing application development on Linux yet because not everything's there yet, and also the Linux experience isn't great. It's the irony of that Linux is made for developers. It's made by developers, but it's not for developers. It's not nice. And people go, yeah, but have you not done X, Y, and this thing and this thing? And I'm like, yes, I have actually. They don't work very well. And the development experience on like Windows is just much better because there are actually, weirdly enough, better development applications on there, especially like visual debuggers. I know GDB is very, very powerful, and there are like wrappers around GDB that can give it, but they're not brilliant. And GDB's interface is dreadful. There's loads of little things where it's like people just bodge things, and it's not a good experience. And this is, for me at least, when it goes to Linux, hopefully when the Steam machine comes out, I'll be buying those as development machines myself. Yes, it's going to be Arch, but it's going to be a very closed down Arch that doesn't do anything. And I'm like, great, that'll work for me. It'll do the job. And I can target it for other people. It's effectively a fixed target. So it'll be a lot easier to develop for. And I don't have to mess around with anything. I know I can also develop on it and know that the auto drivers work, for example.
So,
yeah, there you go.
You brought up gaming there. I did want to kind of talk about, like, whilst Odin is not just for gaming, that is something where I have heard a lot of discussion around Odin with gaming using, you know, Raylib. I don't know. What do you want to say regarding some of the use cases people have for Odin?
Yeah, so Odin is general purpose. Like, you can literally make anything in it if you wanted. You could make an operating system if you wanted a kernel. You could make a web browser. Very difficult, but it would take you a decade. But you could do it. But many people like making games in it. That's just making a browser. Like, well done, guys, for doing like the Ladybird browser. They are going through as they can, and they're getting there. And they're going to be like, what, the fourth browser and I say fourth, it's technically the second browser. Because all the rest are based on each other from like all the roots, aren't they, at the end of the day?
Yeah, all the other ones died. Like IE is dead. Then Edge, which was fourth of IE is dead. Opera's dead.
Yeah, now all of them that exist is you've got Chromium, WebKit, and Mozilla. Right? So I'm just using that as so Gecko, I should say.
Sure.
And technically, all of them are based on like Spring, like they're literally forks of older. I think you like Mosaic and stuff like the I may be wrong, people tell me again, but like they literally are forks of much older web browsers. So effectively, they all got the same root in many ways. I can't remember exactly, but it goes.
Both WebKit and Chrome stem off of KHTML, which was the KDE KDE browser project from decades ago. So. There's also
Yeah,
that.
it's all levels of. There's not
Sorry,
actually many web
specifically
browsers out there.
Blink. The Blink rendering engine. Like, for anyone who wants to get pedantic about it.
Blink, that's going back some time. Bloody hell. I
Yeah.
forgot about Blink. But yeah, so stuff like that. So clearly, when Ladybird comes out, finally we've got another engine that's from scratch, and it actually helps with stuff. But again, we're going back to Odin can be developed for games, and many people actually think Odin is specifically for making games with. And this does make me laugh because when they say, "Oh, Odin's only good at making games," which the reason why it makes me laugh is Odin's games are the most general purpose thing you could ever do. Like they cover every type of programming known to man. And if you're saying that's great, thank you very much. The biggest compliment you've ever given me. Thank you so much. But again, it's one of those people who's just saying with Raylib, people use Odin to use Raylib because you download Odin, it comes bundled with Raylib already because we vendor Raylib as a package in there, and then you can just start using it and it works. In fact, all you have to do is start writing it and then do Odin build dot, and that's done. You don't have an external build system because the build system is within the code itself. It's just magic for you, does all the linking for you. And it's just so easy and quick iteration to do things. And that's just the start of it. Like literally, it's just easy to download. Everything works. Everything's all packaged together, all vendored. And it's been tailored for the language as well. And then Odin has many different features within the language that make it such a pleasant experience compared to, let's say, using Raylib from C directly. Like again, we've got proper array types like dynamic arrays, so you can just keep appending to things if you wanted. We've got hash maps you need. We've got proper string formatting. You don't have to just use printf. In C style, we've got runtime type safety on the string formatting. We've got array programming. This means you can multiply arrays together with and matrices and swizzling and all that magical stuff. There's a lot of little things where you go, oh my God, this actually feels like a really high level language, or even feels like I'm writing in like a shadier language. But you're not. You're doing something which, honestly, no other language is really caring to that level, and they're not, to give that lovely ergonomic experience. And that's one thing about Odin when I'm designing it is it is ergonomic, extremely ergonomic. And usually most people say Odin is extremely comfy to use. And that is a lot of design, a lot of iteration, and understanding how people use things. And that's all the point of ergonomics is. It's about designing for humans. And that's what a program language is for. It's not for computers necessarily. It's for humans.
I did see it.
Yeah.
I did see a crazy comment. It's like, going back to AI from earlier, I did see a crazy comment.
Go ahead.
Someone was like, it's just a little side tangent. Someone was saying, oh, it doesn't matter if the code's ugly because code's not made for people anyway. It's made for the computer. If your entire development mindset is based around the LLM doing everything for you, you know,
I can understand where this mindset comes from because they're like, well, I'm programming so I can then make the computer do the thing. So therefore, it's for the computer. But it's not. Like, these are high-level abstractions which are for people to deal with.
That's what
so
the
then
compiler
they can
is.
manipulate the computer. That's the whole point of the compiler. Like, it's not like if you're saying just computers, like, great, we'd all be von Neumann and we just write in machine code directly. And because anything other than that's just a waste of time. Because von Neumann was that smart and didn't understand that people weren't as smart as him. Yeah, but that's where it goes to. But again, this is the thing, is when you try and make it a very comfy experience, like a lot of times some things are just completely invisible as well. Like you don't even realize they've been solved because they're not problems to you anymore. And again, what's it saying, like that build experience? I can just do Odin build dot, like the current directory. Just works. Or even Odin run dot and just run the current directory. It builds it, runs the executable, and it works. It's a very pleasant experience. There's no external build system needed most of the time, in the vast majority of times of most projects. Even the stuff we have at work, Django FX, which is really complicated programs, I can just do Odin run dot. That's our entire program, it runs. That's how simple it is. It builds, runs, and it builds in, I think at work now, I've got it down to about a second on my machine. So I can build Imogen, which is 500,000 lines of code in a second. Done. It's wonderful. Yeah.
That certainly makes things easy to test that if you're building. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, build speeds are really important. I think there's a lot of people don't realize, again, ergonomics, this iteration time is very important. And build speeds are a really important aspect of that because you can iterate quicker. if you don't have to wait, like if you're dealing with Rust has some long compile times, and you can be waiting a while, or even like C++ if we're not even have to go to a more modern language. I remember some of my colleagues, some of them are C++ programs, they go, oh, I love how fast Odin is. And at the time when they were saying this, I thought, oh, it's really slow. It's taking 5 seconds to compile, and they're used to 5 minutes. Now I've gotten that time down further and further now, so they're really happy it's even faster. But it's just this levels of like, people put up with really slow stuff, and then it kind of changes your way of thinking as well about a problem. Because if you have to just wait, you go, I don't know, have a cup of coffee, or you go out for a little walk or something while everything's compiling, and then you're not thinking about the problem anymore. Well, if you can there's a quicker iteration time, I can actually be more productive. Much more. And that's all about ergonomics. It's about designing for humans.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, like, is that like part of the philosophy in how the language is designed, like this designing for humans, this ergonomics? And if so, like,
Yes.
what are the other sort of design principles you have here?
The design principles in general, it's just usually, again, as I said, this very conservative approach to design is saying like, look, what approaches we know work, and then just do that. But sometimes they don't work. Like, for instance, if we have this interacting with another idea, they may not be coherent ideas. So you have to kind of like, when you're designing things, the number one goal is always to be coherent. And then aim for consistency. But if you have to choose between coherency and consistency, I choose coherency every single time. And this is kind of, again, there's all these little design goals. It's like, okay, as I said, ergonomics. What problems do people actually have? Solve that specifically. And once you see that, understand that idea, you'll see there's a certain pattern throughout Odin, the language itself. A great example of this is Odin doesn't have operator loading or stuff like that. And you'd be going like, but I want to be able to add my own data structures and such. It's like, well, Odin's took the other approach going, well, what's the actual data structures you need? Well, we've just added them in the language directly. Not in the core library, in the language. So we've got your arrays, you've got your dynamic arrays, you've got your hash maps. They're in there, you know? And they've got... And this thing is where we actually add the stuff that people, what they would have normally used, say, operator overloading for, and just implement those things directly. Like, I wanted it for array method. Well, guess what? You can just add 2 arrays together. It works and does it element-wise. They go, but I also want to do, one other one is saying like, I also wanted quaternions or complex numbers. I'm like, guess what? They're in the language as well. So there's all these little things where it seems like, it just seems a bit ad hoc to add all them in. It's like, well, it's not ad hoc. It's more of like, what do people use this problem space for, and do that? Rather, allowing that generalized solution, we say operator overloading, to open a Pandora's box. Because I have seen actual horror shows of people doing operator overloading, where you go, what have you done? You've overloaded the multiplication operator, and now it turns on a toaster. What?
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know what operator overloading is...
That's a bit of an exaggeration, but yeah.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know what operator overloading is, basically it's the idea where you can redefine what the addition operator or the division operator does in the language. And this is fine when you're dealing with types that logically make sense to add together or divide, or these various things you might do with operators.
Yeah.
The problem is people start using them as a replacement for functions that should have a more defined name.
Yeah. And it's not even just that. It gets even if it was just more arithmetic. Sometimes people do very complicated arithmetic and such, and just do it like this, and they'll redefine what that operation means. Like, I remember seeing a vector library once in C++, and in most C++ code, you'll see like the % sign, and this means effectively modulo or remainder. That's what it means. But this one was using it for a vector library. So you'd see the % sign B. Now, I'll let you have a guess. What did that actually do as an operation? Now, hint, it wasn't remainders.
You know what? It could be anything. Just what is it?
In this one particular one I use, remember A and B are vectors.
Yes.
Well, this % sign, it looks like a cross, so they used it for the cross product. But people do this, and you think, oh yeah. This is not even the worst one I've seen, by the way. Oh, it gets worse than that.
At least they're doing mathematics. That's something.
It's mathematics, yeah, but is it the mathematics you
No.
wanted? No, I'd rather. It's just. But that sounds like a very minor complaint.
Yes.
But it gets worse than that. I've seen worse and worse. So you're just like, okay, I don't want to add a feature like this, which, yes, does allow for generalization, but it opens a Pandora's box of insanity. And this is also another design aspect when you're designing for humans, is that when you've seen many other languages and they usually optimize for the individual programmer. Odin, I'm trying to bit more optimize for the team, because if you optimize just for the program and allow him to do whatever you need to do, you have this explosion of complexity, which all of a sudden now what you write in your code doesn't work for other people. And now you've got incompatibilities, you've got dialects popping up. If you go for the original thing, it'll be like the curse of Common Lisp pops up here in this sense. And then people have been trying to mitigate that by having more well-defined ideas of concrete ideas to get rid of that, again, rising up of dialects. So if with Odin, I've been trying to think, okay, look, stop trying to have this magical, let's solve everything with this one idea. Not brilliant, but it just solves everything, but poorly. We just go like, okay, what the problems people do that, do that, do that. Even if that means you've got, it doesn't please everybody, but it will please the vast majority of people. And also not just that, it'll make your colleagues, your co-workers a lot happier because they understand the constructs and idioms that everyone abides by. And it's all at the language level enforced. So it's those kind of little things. Language design's funny if you didn't guess. It's also very difficult to make sure when you're actually doing a proper language that is used by many people. And I think at work we've got, I don't know, is it 20 programmers now at work? All using Odin? That's fun. When you're trying to literally design for all of them and make sure it all things. And that's just one company, obviously. And the dozen other companies that use Odin professionally as their main language. That's also fun. Whew.
Yeah, there's a big difference between, designing a language because you feel like designing a language, you want to just see how language design works, and then actually trying to make a tool that other people want to use. Yeah.
It's not even just that. It's like, I want to make a proper language for me that I'm going to make my own software. It's like, great. That's a very different tool, making the language for you as well as making it for others. Because there are, again, as I said, I've said on Twitter before and other places, there are decisions in Odin which I don't even like. And it's because I've taken certain compromises or trade-offs because I'm trying to make sure it works with other ways of programming to aim for that. And sometimes people don't understand it, like on things, but if you explain the logic to them, they'll go, oh, actually, that makes perfect sense, but I never thought of it that way, kind of thing. And it's like, it's just these little things which you don't realize until you interact with other people what these problems are about. And a lot of these things you can't even come from first principles. You actually just have to see how people program. And you go, good God, I don't want to allow for that. Let's not do that, shall we? Because a lot of it's empirical. There's a lot of things I made in Odin when I first added stuff. I went, I didn't think they were going to do it that way. What? And again, that's another kind of design philosophy there. It's very much this, I'm not trying to prevent people from doing things. You can shoot yourself in the foot in Odin quite easily if you want. But it's more of this, I don't want you to shoot other people in the foot, if that makes any sense. Which is harder to explain. It's very hard to explain how this mad mind of mine works to people in my design approach, because it's not really trivial in that regard.
You did hit on a really interesting point. I don't think you kind of just jumped right past it there. Making a design choice that you don't necessarily agree with, coming from the Linux part of the open source world, that is something that is insane to hear, because you'll often hear, especially from some of the more narcissistic projects, we'll say, they don't need to be named. They know who they are. This project is being designed by the developers for the developers, and if you want to make a change, if you want something to change, then you should go and submit the code to change it. Like, this is a very common mentality that exists in the Linux world.
Yeah. It's also why the biggest reason I don't like a lot of open source software in general, because of that mentality. It's very much like, we don't like it. We have the sources available, can just modify it now. And like, no, just no, thank you. But this is also the problem with open source. There's very little incentive for the developers actually to make it decent. So this is again this is a real big problem with open source software. Is that lack of incentive structure that's there, because it's again, open source software and free open source software in general tend to make and produce free as in beer software. It isn't how do I phrase this? It's going to be free in practice. It's very rarely ever going to make open source that becomes paid. So what's the incentive to the person to keep making something better? What's the incentive structure there? I'm not saying there isn't one. It's just it now becomes a different kind.
Yeah.
So you do get this narcissism where people say, well, I'm making it for free. I'm giving it out for free. Well, you could just be happy that it's for free. And honestly, that just produces awful software. And for me, with Odin, I know it's open source, but again, I'm not the biggest proponent of open source software at all. Odin is open source, but the way I approach it is more, here's the source. You can see me develop on it, but I'm trying to make the best product that I possibly can. Like, I'm trying to be for other people, not just me.
When it comes to... go on.
You go ahead. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, like, when it comes specifically to languages, it's really hard to sell someone on a language that isn't both free and open source. Not free and open source, but free, you know what I'm saying. Free as in you don't pay for. Like, people outside of very specific cases are not buying, not buying compilers, not buying languages. It just does not happen at this point.
No,
even in the corporate space, very rare.
The expected price of a compiler nowadays for a new language is 0. Back in the past, people would have been able to sell compilers, and in fact, there are still languages today which you can buy their compilers. A great example would be MATLAB or Mathematica, but MATLAB's been around since the 80s.
Right, it's so like they've been grandfathered in.
Correct. So, but this is the problem when the economics of programming languages is bad. And most languages that come out today are usually created by giant corporations where the language is just subsidized by that corporation. And then but then the way they do it is they push it on to different projects and they do that sort of marketing. But if someone like me, I'm not funded by a giant corporation. I have a job that I work as a giant corporation. Yes, we use Odin and I do get paid to develop Odin, but I also get paid to develop things in Odin with using as the language. So the incentive is completely different. Many other languages have this issue. It's not just Odin's problem in that regard. There's a lot of... There was I remember seeing a talk on the economics of programming languages a few years ago. I didn't really agree with it because I think a lot of it is also... A lot of it you're just relying on charity. That's pretty much what you're going to be doing. There is no way of getting the money to provide, to support, to do it. Unlike some of the projects which are easy to sell, like a game is a very example of this. You make a game, you can sell it, make money from it, make more games, whatever. But a programming language, everybody expects it to be free now. That's the market price. Because why would I pay for something when I can use this other thing for free? And it's because those big giant corporations subsidize the other ones to be free, pretty much. So why wouldn't you? It's this, and it's like, I don't blame people. It's just how markets work at the end of the day. And it does this kind of weird, there's also this second thing, it's a general thing with open source, and I'm sorry for people, I'm criticizing open source a bit here, but this is the general model of open source in general.
I'm happy to see some different opinions here.
Yeah, like there's this problem, like common feeling of like guilt many programmers have that they should give their knowledge out for free as well to the world. But I also think, why should you feel guilty? Like, why is that the right emotion that you've placed? Like, why is that even valid? It's like, because the problem is when you have all these open source stuff, it kind of makes you it kind of forces you into a sort of charity to give away everything for free. You wouldn't do this in any other area, other than programming. So why are we having to be free?
I'll slightly push back on that.
Yeah.
With the growth of YouTube, I think there has been this sort of also pushback against selling general knowledge. A lot of people feel weird about
Yes.
producing a course, even if the content they're making is incredibly good and people would pay for it, a lot of people feel like I should just release that out there on YouTube for free. It's ad supported and people just watch it.
Yeah, but at least, again, one benefit about YouTube is at least it is ad supported. You've got
Fair.
ads. That's one minor thing. That's the monetization model there. But the other problem is that people feel this guilt that, no, I need to give it out for free because everyone else is doing it. And again, that's what happens with everything. It's cheaper and cheaper. But the thing is, a lot of those paid courses that you'll see, they're usually a hell of a lot better than you'll see for free on YouTube, usually on average, not always. But again, it's this, I'm not saying, it's hard to explain this nuance to people because I know it's nuanced, because the point is I'm trying to say here is there's a tendency not for definite here. And I think a lot of people are nice giving out things for free, but it's like, again, how do you make a living? We live in a society where we need money. And at least with YouTube, there are adverts. And then other people rely on sponsorships of things. Obviously, most YouTubers will have a sponsorship or something, which usually pays for the video, not the adverts that come from YouTube. And again, absolutely fine. But then you come to software. Well, what's the monetization model there? What is it? I'm not saying there should be adverts in your software. I'm not saying that. But I think a lot of people should actually sell their software, which is, again, sorry for guys, I know it's being controversial here, but I kind of want people to make money and keep making good software. And a lot of the stuff that comes out for free, people use that because then it's free, but it may not actually be good software. It's free. Even if the thing that costs money that's only like $1, well, I'm going to use the free thing because it's free. And as a consequence of this, a lot of people, and especially programmers, don't value their time. They literally value their time at zero. So you may take this thing costs you free, but it's spending hours on hours when you could have bought something, hypothetically bought something, which would have taken seconds. And you wouldn't have had to do all that insanity because you don't value your time correctly. Sorry, it's just a bit of a depressive thing,
I've talked to quite a few people in the open source space about software funding, and it's a really tough equation, right? Because it also matters like where in the software stack you are. So I've had KDE developers on before, and they're in a position where they can put a donation prompt in front of people. Every year they put it, for the past 2 years, they put a donation prompt in front of people around December. They bring in like $200,000 just in like that little bit at the end of the year. They're doing incredibly well. GNOME does a similar thing. They're doing less well, but that's GNOME. But if you're something like...
yes, that's true.
If you're a lower level library. I've spoken to Till Kempeter, who is the developer of Open Printing, who does like the printing stack for Linux. If you're a printer driver, like he used to work at Canonical, and that was all being funded. Now he's trying to set up a like separate foundation under the Linux Foundation, but like you can't charge for printing drivers at this. Like, where's the
where
funding?
you get different. That's the thing, is a lot of things with drivers, historically it would have been the printer manufacturer themselves made the drivers, because you buy the printer and you give out this thing for software for free. But now you get into a situation where even the manufacturer drivers don't work, because everybody hates printers. They always fail, and there's always problems with them, and it's always the driver usually. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's literally just the operating system. Like Windows, I've sometimes had to reinstall the driver just to make it work because Windows does something I still don't know to this day. But reinstalling the driver makes it work again. This happens like every 9 months. But again, this is just these different models, and I think there's also this. This is the problem when you have. There's this issue with like the open source model a lot of people have, is that they think of the ideals of open source and think that that's reality as well. Like these ideals should become reality. I'm like, but that's not how reality works. So you have this. There's a lot of things where there's a lot of negative costs that people aren't seeing because there is no price mechanism to see where to do. But it's just hard. It's a hard problem to solve. And I'm not saying there's any I can give any solutions to this problem, but I am kind of, it's annoying nowadays that a lot of software has become free, and a lot of the commercial software has become free, but either has ads in it or you have to have a subscription to it. And again, nothing necessarily wrong with subscriptions. I'm not criticizing that as a model, but then it's it's free to entry, and then it's to pay for it rather than just, can I just buy it outright, please? I'd love that in a lot of software. Can I just buy it, please?
Right, like, if you were to look at your, let's say you're in Adobe or something. If you offer, I'm sure they know what their cancellation rate is, like how often people subscribe for before canceling. If you were to sell a license for that version, people, like, if it's like a $500 license, people would just pay you like $1,000 license. People would pay
that.
It
Used to be the case.
It did used to be. Yeah, that's Adobe used to do exactly that.
You literally bought a version of Photoshop, and guess what? It worked forever after that. Like, I've not around me here, but like, I've probably got a version of CS 5.5 somewhere. It works. If I want to use the Creator Suite 5.5, it works. I don't need to pay. In fact, this is the thing about Photoshop, is its functionality. Most people don't need anything more than like CS2 in terms of functionality. Right? And I think that became accidentally free, if you know what I mean, on the internet. Like, it was just one of those that just became that kind of thing. But there was also, there's a lot of software like you buy once and it works. So sometimes maybe you have to pay every year to get a maintenance fee. For instance, you've bought it once, but if you want to update it, pay again. It's like, fine. I'm fine with these models because I'm a developer. I actually like to be productive and save my time. And when there's tools which I can literally pay to save me time, I will do that. I know if I was a child, when I was a child and I had no money, then I would actually, my time was actually a lot less because I had no money to spend it. So I'd waste more time. But now I'm an adult with money. I'm like, actually, I've got money to spend, which will save me money. So it's this. I also think this is also the problem with the internet, is you forget how many people are very, very young and very, very and also don't have any money.
Yeah.
And they're usually the most vocal. And there are actually professionals out there who are like willing to pay for good things. It doesn't matter how, again, not professional software. It could be anything. Just pay for something. I want software to work, please. Please. And again, I'll be very careful. I'm going to rephrase this. I'm not saying everything should be paid for. Some things should be free. Some things shouldn't be free. It's literally this. It depends, and there's no general rule for this.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There's no general rule, but we've applied this generalized idea. And there's this idea in the open source world that we've talked about charity, right? It's like this utopia where everybody just works for free, creating software for each other. It all works. Everyone is not just creating software for each other. Everyone in the space is a developer. Everyone is feeding back into the software. And it's just
that ideology is that's something else.
It was mostly, if you look at Linux back in like 1994, it was mostly true. Basically, everyone using Linux at that time was a developer. We've moved so far past that model, but the model hasn't moved. Yeah,
and also you're actually, and this is another counter thing, is like, I always, like, one of my biggest criticisms of, say, Linux, the ecosystem, because I know there's people are pedantic on the internet. We say Linux, they say, that's just the kernel, don't you know?
Yeah, I block those
yes,
people.
But that's not how people phrase that. I'm like, look, Linux, the ecosystem, I'm being very careful because I know YouTube comments and Twitter comments and such. It is not friendly for anyone, actually, let alone beginners or even the developers themselves. Like, I don't know how long you spend when you install a new version of Arch and then just trying to set that up. I don't know how many hours you waste doing that.
It's been my
maybe
system
you've got
I had
to
for
fast
a while.
now.
Yeah, well, my current system I've had for a while, but I would say the last time I did it, probably like 6 hours or so.
Yeah, okay. So but that's still quite a long time for a lot of people as well. I know that sounds like, what do you mean? It's only 6 hours. I'm like, some people just want a computer, switch it on, it works, that's it.
Mhm.
They don't want any setup cost. In fact, I think a lot of the time, Linux is getting better, especially Valve is doing a very great job with SteamOS when that effectively comes out officially, because it's like, here's the decent defaults.
Well, Framework's
Yeah, if you
also
want to be a bit
selling
more fancy, yeah.
selling with Ubuntu as well for their new
Yeah.
framework. For Dell's done the same thing in the past as well. So there are these devices that do exist. It's just few and far between.
Yeah, and this is also the other issue with like Linux generally. You've got so many distributions as well. There's so much choice, where that choice is not a good thing as well. Like for the average person, that level of choice is detrimental to them. Like if you're like, you know what you're doing, that choice can be brilliant. If you don't know what you're doing, it's like asking. I can't think of a good analogy, so I won't. But it's literally like, okay, I would say I don't know anything about computers. I'm like, which version of Linux have I got to do? Why is there so many different ones? Why is there a Hannah Montana version and a Pop OS and Arch Linux? And it's like, which one do I choose? And it's like, and then you literally, what you have to then do, and this is the thing, is if you literally ask which distro, you have to then search on the internet, you find all these different forums that have like rank them from 1 to 10 or something stupid to tell you what the benefits are. And the average consumer is still even more confused.
Yeah.
It doesn't help anybody. And I've not seen, literally, it's one of those where it's like, they just need a dumb thing like, this is the easiest one, do this, nothing else, don't even, and then you get this other problem is where you got the skilled people say, well, just use Arch, it's great. And I'm like, yeah, Arch is a distro, maybe fine, but like the user experience isn't necessarily easy now to get into it. So it's like, it's not helping anybody. So it's just this frustration. It's where not everybody is as nerdy as you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people...
I am, but it's still not... I'm not necessarily the audience I'm talking about.
You said like an hour and a half ago.
I didn't mean it as you. Well, maybe you are, Brody, but...
No, you said an hour and a half ago, a problem that exists with LLMs is you have people with autism talking to an autistic machine. It's kind of the same thing here. A lot of people on Linux are not able, they do not know what other people are thinking. They have no idea what the average, maybe they have this idea in their head of like what the average user is, but they've never actually interacted with the average user.
Nope. Or maybe they think, well, my mum and dad are struggling on this computer, but that's just my mum and dad. And I'm like, no, your mum and dad are probably the typical computer user.
And frankly, if they're near you, maybe they've learned something through osmosis.
Yeah, maybe. This is the thing. But then it's just... This is why a lot of people buy a Mac as well. Like, for better or for worse, when you open up a Mac, I've got one in front of me. Right? It just works. Like, okay, it's not brilliant. Like, the hardware's great.
Oh, yeah.
The operating system's got its issues. But it's a much better experience than, say, using Windows 11 nowadays, or the vast majority of Linux distros.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd say all Linux distros, in fact. I can't think of one that's actually even decent compared to, like, Mac. And again, that's not even me saying Mac is good. But again, this is all going back to everything about, as I say, cognitive ergonomics in general, what I was talking about earlier, designing for humans. Most software isn't really designed for humans. Or at least not mere humans like myself.
There's all manner of problems, whether you want to get into UX design or anything else like that. It's just software is just a mess, basically.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it is. It's an absolute mess. Very, very fragile mess as well.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff we rely on. And again, package managers, people make software that relies on thousands of dependencies, and now you made your software extremely fragile. And you're being very pessimistic with how you develop things as well. So it's now going to run really, really slow. To the point where you get people going like, well, that took a second to load. That's pretty fast. I'm like, this should have taken a microsecond.
Oh, God, yeah. I listened to web developers talking about how long their page takes to load and are impressed by it. Like, why are your standards that low?
Yeah, they are. They don't. This is the problem: is they don't have anything else to compare it to. Like their view is like, well, it's faster than I can blink, therefore it's fast. And I'm not joking. That's probably how many people think about speed. They go, well, it's faster than I could do manually in my mind or something. Therefore, it's fast. That's computers are fast. I'm like, you don't realize how fast computers are. Like computers go a hell of a lot faster than this now, man.
Yeah, people
really
say,
do.
people say, I think people actually understand this, right? They'll say things like, oh, the computers we have today are X times faster than what sent us to the moon. And then they're like,
Yep.
they don't make the connection there. Like, they're that much faster, but the software is, like, that much slower on the other end.
Yep.
Like, do we not see the problem here? And,
As the old joke goes, Andy giveth, that Billeth taketh away. There you go. That's Andy from like Intel and Bill Gates as he makes the software slower. It's a really old joke. But yeah, I don't think people realize how fast computers are, because I think the vast majority of, say, developers don't actually understand how computers work. Like, they just develop, and it's this abstract idea they fit with. And I'm not saying that you have to use C, but if you do use C, you can actually understand how things work better, because you have a better mental model of how things work. It's not perfect, by the way. But I just wish a lot more developers were at least a little bit aware of the slightness of how fast a computer could be compared to what you're doing, especially if you're a web developer. There's this... I'm not saying, like, when I say web dev, I'm talking about front-end people, not necessarily back-end.
Sure.
Just please try and download everything in one connection. Don't just have multiple little things everywhere. Or don't just use these massive frameworks everywhere that's bloated and takes ages to load. Oh, wow, I've got to have a timer on my website now. Like, what decade are we in? Like, when I've got a startup bar. Why?
Yeah.
I saw one the other day. Literally, I saw one. I literally had to wait a couple of seconds for it to load up. And then all of it was at the end of the day was just literally effectively like the equivalent of some text and some tables. And this was actually like, I was trying to find some like technical details, and this just took like 3 seconds to load. And then it showed, I'm like, was that it? Just an image, some text, open tables, done. That was it. I don't know what they were loading. I didn't want to look, actually, because I could have just seen the entire profile and gone, no.
And then you look at the list of like 100 warnings and errors as well as in there.
Yeah, that'll be another one. Oh god, the horrors of some websites. I think should just upload instantly nowadays, man. They should just do. But like, again, we're talking right now over the internet. There's a massive latency, because I know there are, because you're on the other side of the planet.
Well, that's like there's like light is kind of an issue there. There's like a speed limit there.
Yeah, laws of physics get in the way. Yeah. However, saying this, look, we've got streaming probably 1080p video to each other right now. And it's running at 60 frames per second. Maybe 30, but it depends on what Discord's doing. And this is not even taxing the computer at the slightest, and your web page is not even be able to do any of this. What? It's levels of...
Well, the worst part is this is in Discord. So there's this one part of Discord that works really fast, and then the rest of it is awful.
Yeah, it's awful and slow, and it's... I think it's because this part of Discord, again, the video, the audio, all this lot, which is a lot of data, by the way. It's a lot of bandwidth that you're broadcasting over the internet. We're then talking to each other. Yes, there's a latency. I'm hearing about, like, sometimes about half a second sometimes between us, but it's fine. Yeah. Like, I'm just checking the ping now. We've got 300 milliseconds.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. 300 milliseconds. Like, yeah, that's just the speed of light in the way.
Yeah. One thing we touched on at the start, we didn't really talk about, and it's not important, but the Wikipedia thing is just funny.
Oh yeah, the Wikipedia thing. That was a fiasco.
For anyone who's just unaware, basically there was a Wikipedia page for Odin, and now there's not a Wikipedia page for Odin because some Wikipedia moderators felt like it was not a notable language. There's there's nothing. It's not important. No one's using it. Besides the fact that there's a bunch of corporate users and there's
there's literally, if our estimates are correct, we've got again, if the estimates are correct, there's over 1 million people who use Odin, right? Because we look at how many people download from GitHub. We see how many stars are. Like, on average, people won't do a star repo on GitHub. It's about 1 in 100 at most. So if there's 10,000 stars at the time of recording, 10,000 times 100 is about 1 million have used the language at least or can regularly use it. And we look at how many people download it every week, and it's in the tens of thousands. And that's downloading it. Not everyone down. And we have monthly releases. So it's just checking like, yeah, we know there's a lot of people using this, but the reason why, to explain what people are going on, the reason about this lack of notability is they're saying that Odin is not in scientific journals. They're not in journals. Or it's not being written in books, or it's not on, as they would call it, reliable news sites. And some of the like the examples I read from one of the people here, they gave some examples of, like, well, what's the, oh yeah, so they said, oh, it's like the Linux magazine or the Info Security magazine or Analytics India mag or Wired.com and many more. Now, Linux magazine, okay, it's fine. That's maybe a reliable site, but it's for Linux. It's not for general programming languages, right? And if it's on there, the programmers they're going to be talking about on Linux are going to be C, Rust, Bash, and that's about it. I think maybe a Perl script from time to time.
Yeah.
That's all they're ever going to talk about. The other ones, I'd never even heard of them except Wired. Like, I used to have a subscription to Wired as a physical magazine 15 years ago. I don't know anyone who even reads the website, let alone the physical magazine anymore. And also, I don't remember them ever reading anything about programming languages in that book, in that magazine.
I just opened up Wired.
It's just science, technology, and politics now. I think it's mostly politics.
Yeah, I opened up the page right now. They're talking about the White House shooting. The White House shooting. Elon, Zins, and brain implants.
Yeah, because I remember reading back in the day, and it was usually not much politics at all, and it was just science and technology. And I'm like, look, if that's what they find, it might be reliable for what they're commenting on. I don't know. I don't read it anymore. Does anybody read them anymore? Serious question. So what I'm saying here is that when we did this video, I wrote an article, and then I had to update it because on Twitter, someone pinged Jimmy Wales, the co-founder of Wikipedia, onto it. And he had a look at it. This is brilliant, because I was like, oh God, the internet's quite small, isn't it? Now, someone pinged him, and he says, oh, I would love to see if there's a link. And he looked at things, says, oh, it looks very civil and policy-centered, and I don't see anyone there with any kind of weird axe to grind. I mean, who would? But a general interest in having reliable sources to back up that is what's in Wikipedia. I say, as someone who has leans somewhat inclusionist, I think it seems like a good deletion to me. And that's what Jimmy Wales I don't think he probably read it, but I think he's probably just skimmed it. People going, well, these are the rules, we're adhering to the rules, no problem. And my general reply to him was just, I can read out exactly what I wrote, but my general reply is like, the rules are bad for programming, man. That's not exactly what I said, a bit more formally, obviously. I'm saying the rules don't really work well for programming as a domain. It's the wrong thing. Like, for instance, and again, I'm not even that bothered that the Wikipedia is deleted for Odin.
I don't care about
Wikipedia too much. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, but it's very much like, I'm not asking for this to be reinstated. I don't care too much. But what I'm saying is that there was two criticisms. Like, I don't think the rules make sense for programming because these reliable sources they want are so outdated. They're not reliable anymore. And the only reason, how to explain this? There's a lot of inertia, like 10 inertia with all these things, and they've just been contested for so long that uncontestation, if that's a word, is the only thing notable about them to begin with. Right? It is. I mean, it's uncontestation. That's a word, right?
Uncontestation. Uncontested is obviously a word.
Yes. But it's now
it's not in any dictionaries, but we can certainly get it added.
I can get at it. I'd be probably the first person to use it, so I'm happy. It makes sense, right? But what I'm saying is, if at least none of these sources are reliable. But and also the other thing which I was criticizing is if you applied all of this logic consistently, like 90% of programming articles would be deleted from Wikipedia. Now, I don't want that. I really don't want any of that. But it's just, that would be the logical conclusion. And I think this is also the problem with a lot of like the moderators. they do not apply their rules consistently. And they have a little clause, which is the WX, which is what about X? Which is effectively we just a way to dismiss like people's complaints saying like, well, you're not applying it to this article. It says, yeah, but we only consider things in isolation, sir. It's like, no, you don't. You're just ignoring those because you might like those articles or you may not, you don't care about them or whatever. And it's just this levels of, like, I think the rules need to be reconsidered, at least for the programming domain. And again, as I was saying, a lot of the knowledge that we have, like in programming nowadays, live on like personal blogs. They live in like small communities, closed channels, like Discord. And none of this makes sense for Wikipedia's sourcing standards in the slightest. So it's now, but I understand what like Wikipedia is trying to prevent against. Like, again, it leaves you in a horrible position where it's like, well, if you apply these rules that you've currently got too strictly, most of the contemporary landscape of like programming would be excluded entirely, right? But if you lose them too much, then it's going to be effectively you risk all this advertisement or noise.
Sure,
it then just becomes this horrible mismatch. Now, weirdly enough, Jimmy Wells went, yeah, I kind of agree with everything you've just said. So he says, I hear you, it's a complicated matter, and of course it's true and stuff. And he says, effectively, at the end, he went just, I agree with all of that, everything I said to him. So it's like, okay. So after a little conversation, he went, yeah, you did agree. But I'm like, but I'm not complaining. I'm like, it's just this level of the standard for reliable sources is not reliable.
Right.
And it seems to me mainly their standard isn't reliability, it's actually prestige, is what I would argue. Right? Are you in a prestigious journal? Have you been published? Not self-published, but published in a book. Well, that level of prestige is necessary. And if we don't, and again, it made sense 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Doesn't really make any sense now. And trying to say that it does is like, great, who's reading programming books, physical books anymore?
Well, outside
But
of
at least
like,
a new one.
you know, yeah, exactly, like new ones. Like, obvious.
Yeah.
When a few people in the comments like, oh, but languages like Rust, they have a lot of published books. Like, yeah, there are new languages that have published media, but that is like the one. The question is like, is Wikipedia for like the top 1% of published languages, or should it be something that exists to document the array of things that exist?
And there's not all the things is also like ask how has Rust been able to get all of that publishing? Also, it's been in journals and such. And the answer is it's got a lot of funding behind it, hasn't it? As a language, it's got a massive foundation, which was started by
like Mozilla. Initially,
Amazon
Mozilla started, and then it became its own thing.
You've got and all the other things like that. And then it goes, they've got funding, so they can literally pay to be in journals. So I actually even thought about this. I don't care. I don't want to be on Wikipedia. But what I'm saying is, if you wanted to be on Wikipedia, what I could just do is pay to be in these reliable sources. Literally just pay money. And then it would work.
Yeah.
So it's just a pay to win scheme at the end of the day. That's all it is.
Like, and sort of one of my things I brought up in the video was with all these outlets that just get things wrong with stuff. Like a great example of an outlet that just tends to make things, especially about Linux, XDA developers. XDA used to be an amazing source. Oh my god, XDA is a mess nowadays. It's a mess. Yeah. But if you have these so-called like notable outlets that constantly make these mistakes, you know, in some cases like pump out just AI garbage articles that no one even reviewed, why is that any less relevant than like a Primeagen or someone like that?
Well, their rules is they want secondary sources, not primary. They want secondary from reliable sources, which are not YouTube videos. However, I'm not going to give examples because I don't want these articles deleted either. Because this is the thing is, I can give you literally a dozen examples of just programming languages, for example, dozen off the top of my head, and going, well, if they apply the same logic, this one shouldn't have existed because no one even uses the language. Like there was one example I was looking like, I just went on GitHub and went, okay, how many repos does Odin have at the moment on GitHub? Well, there's 6,000 I found, right? Which is not small, but it's not big in the grand scheme of things compared to, let's say, Rust.
Sure.
But I found this other language which has its own Wikipedia. It's got citations from reliable sites, and I typed in, it was 40. So there was 40 projects that used it. So it's effectively a dead language. Not saying which one it is, but it's just very much like, but it's got reliable news sources because of things, and it's notable because of these. There have been advertised in these web pages that I've never heard of before. But it's like, okay, that one's allowed to be out. But then you got other languages which are struggling, like not just Odin. There's other ones in the similar range that could be deleted under similar things. But I'm like, they've got more than that. They've got tens of thousands of things on GitHub being used, but because they're not the same notability requirement of not being in like journals or in not self-authored, but like published books, like, well, no, they're not notable. Which means I just think the criteria for programming is completely bonkers and just wrong. And there's also other things like I'm going randomly here, but there are articles on Wikipedia which don't even cover some of the foundational things of programming. Like a good example a friend of mine was showing me was like linked lists, right? There's an article on linked lists on Wikipedia. Of course there is.
Sure.
There is no mention anywhere, or even on Wikipedia, of intrusive linked lists anywhere, which is one of the most foundational types of linked lists out there. And not just that, that's the foundation of all modern operating systems, an intrusive linked list. You can't find it because guess what? I bet it's not been talked about in any journals. It's just this tacit information that's within the community because, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. And people may talk about on their personal blogs and you learn a lot about it. But it's not been talked about in journals because why would you need to talk about it? It's obvious. So you have this basic thing, this very like fundamental data structure.
Oh, okay. So I'd never actually heard the term intrusive linked list. Oh, okay.
Sorry. I should have explained.
No. No, it's just
it's the difference to explain is like there's extrusive and intrusive. They're very weird words, but extrusive means you have like a linked list data structure that wraps the type you want. So it's a wrapper. Intrusive means you embed the list within the type.
Yeah, that was how I learned linked lists initially. I didn't even know the term for it.
Yeah. Exactly. But the thing is, it's such an obvious thing. But you go on Wikipedia, they never even talk about this distinction or even how important it is or how useful it is. Like the entire Linux kernel is developed around these intrusive linked lists. Because guess what? If they're intrusive, you can actually embed multiple lists within the data structure and it can all be part of multiple different lists. When if it's extrusive, it can only be part of one. And you've got this other problem is like it's now a container. It's actually less flexible. So you have, it's like, but where would they discuss that on Wikipedia? Because it's not, I bet it's, again, it might be wrong. I haven't found a journal entry for it yet. But it's just these little things where it's like, as I keep saying, the wrong domain for all of this. The irony of all that Wikipedia has clearly been developed through programming. And the thing it's applying its standards to does not work, the thing that makes it even exist. Oh well.
It's also clear that at least a few people had like an axe to grind with you. You know, the outspoken persona of GingerBill as if a cult leader.
I know, I love that. It was hilarious. Firstly, a persona of GingerBill. No, my name is Bill and I'm Ginger. The probably camera's not picking up my ginger beard, but yeah, that's not a persona. That's just called a nickname that I've had from school. Yeah, that's all it is. I could say my real name, but it's like the most common name you could possibly get, so there's no point.
I think it was on the article anyway.
I'm really bad when I recommend other languages to people to use, and I even tell people actively never to use Odin sometimes. So I think I'm the worst cult leader known to man. It's like, don't join my cult. Please don't. It's like, what? I think some people just don't like me, which is fine. I don't want everyone to please everyone, but like I wonder sometimes it's been deleted because someone really just doesn't like me. Which means then it's nothing about notability. You just don't like me. Could be. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, there is a book. There is a book. The Odin book.
Yes, there is a book, but it's self-published. That's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the problem.
I know. Is the Odin book actually? I know there's a quote
It's not
here
in physical form yet, but I know that Carl Zelensky is thinking about doing it in physical. It's very expensive. Even if it was non-self-published,
Sure.
it's still very expensive, especially getting all the typesetting correct as well. It's like it's actually a real difficult thing to do typesetting. And I remember him talking about how annoyed it was trying to just do typesetting.
Is it
So
worth
he's just
giving the book a read?
Oh, the book's really good, actually. Yeah, it is actually a really good book. This is one of those things where he does explains everything, kind of the language, kind of goes over how to do things much better than say the Odin Overview. It is actually a proper tutorial kind of book to read. So yeah, odinbook.com. I by the way, I don't get any money out of this. Clearly, it all goes to the author Carl Zielinski. It is a good book, and it's a very nicely formatted book as well. It's very easy. It's effectively just simple things with notes in the columns, and it's nicely done. It really is nicely done.
Is there anything else you really wanted to talk about? Like, we kind of touched on most things I wanted to get to here.
Yeah, and me ranting randomly in places.
Yeah, those are the fun ones. I enjoy that.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. Yeah, so we've kind of talked about everything everywhere. I mean, I could just say usually just like if you're interested in Odin and you want an alternative to C that just keeps you sane. Like I've lost all my hair from working in C++, so you don't have to. Yeah, that's Odin for you. Give it a go. If you enjoy it, it's wonderful. If you don't, that's fine as well. Yeah, you go.
Well, if somebody wants
I
to
guess I'm going to get
try out,
people playing it. Yeah.
If someone wants to try out Odin and get started with it, like, what would you recommend someone who's like? I know it's hard to really say from someone who's been using it for so long, developing it, but like, what do a lot of people tend to encourage people to look at for getting started?
It depends on what you're wanting to do, literally. So if you want to make a game, sure, you do games. Some people like using Raylib because it's very quick to prototype. People even published, literally, they publish games on Steam now. There's quite a few actually. We're just collecting a list just to make sure, like, oh, here's a few, and some that are coming out soon. So it's over quite a few, like literally a few dozen now at this point, which is pretty cool. But if you want to do other things, other tooling, like you may want to make your own little compiler of stuff, or you may want to make your own little processing stuff. I mean, a few months back, I made my own website generator in Odin, and it took me like 6 hours. All just vanilla Odin, made my entire blog runs on it, effectively like generated just HTML at the end of the day, static, is all I needed. And the reason I did it is because I didn't want to, well, I was using GoHugo, which is a thing.
Yeah, Hugo's quite
nice little tool. Yeah. It's great. We use that for the actual made in Odin website, by the way. But for my blog, I thought it's a bit overkill, right? It's just a bit like, I don't need any of this. So I just wrote my own one. It's just a fun, like Sunday afternoon kind of thing. And it just works. Like I forget, some people just forget that you can just do things like just for fun. And it's easy as well sometimes.
Yeah, you don't actually have to. People got so focused like hyper optimizing their time and like make sure your time is valuable. Yeah. You can just do things. You can just
do things. It's fun. And even just, it doesn't even have to, again, I made a website generator. Again, 6 hours. I probably in total probably spent 12, but those extra 6 were probably polishing things off. Like I wanted to make sure this is correct. But otherwise it's, I think, again, a lot of people think they have to ask permission to do things as well. It's a real big problem. Like I've seen a lot of programs like, oh, I need to ask permission to do. I'm like, just go do it. No one's going to stop you. And guess what? You may learn something. You may not be able to do it. You may be able to do it. Just have fun. Learn. Don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just agree there. It was a pleasure to have you on. This was fun.
No, this is a pleasure as well, Brody. Thank you very much. It's been good to talk short. Sorry if I'm ranting too much, but it's been fun.
No, it's all good. As I said, I enjoy the rant episodes. I enjoy going down these random tangents. It's always a lot of fun for me. Yeah. If you want to come back on and do another one at some point, love to have you back on.
No, it would be fun. That would be nice fun, yeah.
So if anyone wants...
Whatever controversial, I've got myself on next time when I get on, because there's always something, yeah.
We'll see how we go. So if people want to check out Odin or check out anything you do, where can they go?
If you want to try the Odin language, you can probably go to www.odinlang.org.
Well, you got an org. That's nice.
SNORG. I'm like, yeah. Also, that reference, how I've said it, there's going to be like 2 people who understand that reference with the way of saying websites. But that's a nice thing. You can always check me out on Twitter if you want. I'm at the GingerBill, obviously. On YouTube as well, under, I guess, Ginger Games is, I think, still the name of the channel, or GingerBill at this point. I did it when I was playing games back in the day. I used to be a Minecraft streamer.
Oh,
That's
really?
Yeah. One of my biggest videos still got like 600,000 views or something stupid. That was one of those.
Popular. Oh my god!
Yeah, you found me. There you go. That's going back quite a bit now. It's what, 15 years ago, I think.
Play the video.
Hello.
Oh my god, it's Minecraft beta. Oh,
yeah.
That was fun.
Oh yeah, I haven't played Minecraft in a very long time, probably over a decade now. Like, that's how I just stopped playing it. I've even lost access to my account because it was in that transition period and I couldn't remember my password. And it literally, like, that's why it was now lost to time. That original account back from when I was playing since alpha. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to like migrate the account over. Like when Microsoft bought it, you'd like migrate it to like the
I didn't even bother because
I
I hadn't even used it in that long. And when I tried to one day, I went, I don't remember the password to the old one, and now I can't migrate it because I lost the time.
Yeah.
So, oh well, maybe I could contact Microsoft and go, hey, could I get this back? This is proof of me. Look, can you see this video? This is me. But no.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah.
Anything else to direct people to, or is that pretty much it?
Also, of course, my job as well, which is Django Effects, all the amazing real-time stuff. So that'll be Embergen, LuGen, Liquigen, and GeoGen. They're all really good. So that's djangoeffects.com.
If you happen to
But again, the main thing would just be
fire, water, earth effects of various sorts.
Yeah, some procedural generation for games, which is pretty cool. That's what LuGen is, which is actually pretty damn cool. It really is, actually. But yeah, that's it. So other than that, you've got Django Effects, my general Twitter and YouTube, and of course the Odin website at www.odinlang.org.
I don't get the reference, but we'll go with it.
No one did. This is like a very obscure reference. Okay. It's brilliant. I might send it later.
Yeah, we're good. Again, and nothing else you wanted to mention? That it?
No, that should be fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Check out Odin. That's all I can say.
Sweet.
At the moment.
I'll do my outro and then we'll sign off.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. My main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. I have streamed there before. It's been a few months. I'll need to get around to doing that at some point. I've got the gaming channel, Brody on Games. Right now, I'll be playing through the absolute garbage that is Shenmue 3. I don't know why the game ever came out. And also a much better game, Metal Gear Solid 2. And I've got the... if you're watching the video version of this, you can find the audio version on basically every podcast platform. That is Tech Over Tea. And the video is on YouTube, Tech Over Tea. We have a video on Spotify as well. There's an RSS feed if you like RSS feeds. Yeah. How do you want to sign us off? What do you want to say?
Thank you very much for having me on, Brody. This is absolutely wonderful.
Absolute pleasure.
And hopefully I can see the next podcast when it comes on for whoever's going to be on next. It'll be a good, enjoyable thing.
Awesome. You know what? I like that outro. That was nice.